Okay, today we're doing 5 tricks with delay in Ableton. Okay, so delay is kind of a foundational audio effect. It's been around for ages and it's the basis of a whole bunch of other effects. We're going to do 5 tricks with delay in Ableton today, and these are the 5 tricks. So I've included one which is just a straight up mixing tip, and the other 4 are kind of more interesting ways to use delay to create completely different effects than just a regular delay. Let's get started. Okay, we're here in Ableton, and I've set up a little synth riff out of Operator, and it's going into a regular delay with no ducking at the moment. You can hear that lovely little tail, but actually the delay seems to be fighting the main riff in order to be heard. So let's try ducking that out of the way. I've set this one up already where we've got a delay and then a compressor with the sidechain enabled. I'll show you how to build it in a second, but this is the effect that we're going for. So we still get all of those lovely delay tails, but the delays don't fight with the main riff for mix space. The way that we build this rack is pretty straightforward. Let's delete this one and we'll get a delay. And so now we've got exactly the same as the previous setup. Heard it kind of repitch a little bit there. Don't worry about that too much. Let's group this and we'll open the chains area. We want to create a chain. So we'll call this one dry and we'll call this one delay. Now in the delay chain, we want to grab a compressor. Just drag it in after the delay and pop open the sidechain. This is where the interesting bit happens. We want to enable sidechain and we want to take audio from this channel, which is duct. Where's duct? There we go. And we want to set it to be taking the input from dry post effects. And that's just in case we do actually wind up putting effects in this channel. Okay, so I'm going to solo this delay chain and we'll hear what it sounds like now. And then I'm going to bring the threshold down and it should kind of squish out of the way of the original signal. It's much quieter and you can hear it kind of swells up when we stop playing the main loop. Now if we unsolo the delay chain, so you can hear we now get the delay signal, but we don't hear it competing with the main mix as much. We can actually turn down this delay chain a little bit, maybe 7 or 8 dB. So we've recreated what we had before. This is a really handy mix tool in order to make things have a delay, but for it to not kind of muddy things up or to get in the way of the original signal. One really great place that this can be used is on vocals. And here's an example that I cooked up just before. We've got a regular delay here.
Don't you know it's me and you now?
And you can hear the delay kind of fighting with the main vocal there and kind of ruins the intelligibility a little bit. You're not quite sure what the words were because there's other words just slightly quieter cascading around behind it. If we use the ducking effect,
don't you know it's me and you now?
You can hear very clearly that there's a delay and it's kind of being allowed to bloom out in these quiet parts so that we hear the delay very clearly, but it's being ducked out of the way of the incoming vocal signal. So that's ducking. It's a great way to clean your mix up, and I use it all the time on delays when I want them to sit without kind of interfering with the original signal. Okay, so the next thing to know about delay is that you have a few different options with most delays about how it should deal with changes in the delay time. Now, Ableton's delay has 3 options. It's got repitch, fade, and jump. And those respectively mean that it can repitch what's already in the delay buffer, it can fade from the old delay buffer to the new delay buffer, or it can just jump from the old buffer to the new buffer. You kind of don't need to worry about that too much because, in my view, repitch is always the right answer. And using repitching in delay means that we can do some pretty interesting stuff. For example, this is a synth patch again out of Operator. It's not very interesting, but what happens if we throw repitching delays into it at 100%? So we got kind of a tape stop moment out of it there. What about if we draw in some more weirder automation? Awesome. So I really like using delay for stuff like this. You can see here, all I've done is modified this L time, which is just the delay time. I'm not sure why it's in a group. And I've got some crazy pitch shifts out of that. It's really simple to do this. Let's turn that one off, drag in delay, make sure it's on repitch, make sure the dry wet's at 100%, turn feedback off because we don't need it, and set the time interval just to time, and then just manipulate this time parameter. So you can hear that's doing all sorts of crazy stuff. I really like doing this for sort of glitch effects and weird effects. It sounds fantastic, I think. And different delays, different reverbs will have all sorts of different repitching algorithms built in. So they all sound slightly different. One of the first things I do with any delay is see whether it repitches or jumps delay buffers. It's super fun to muck around with and you get interesting effects. So you can build classic record stop effects. Or you can do some sort of weird scratching thing. So one of the best uses for this is on neuro basses, which don't necessarily need a fixed pitch center to come back to. I'll show you this original sample, which does have a pitch. That sounds okay, but what happens if we just pitch it around using delay? So again, we've got 100% dry wet, and we've got it on repitch mode, and we've just automated the delay times. I've got 3 completely different takes on that one sound now, just from creating a strange pitch envelope. Because you have a little less control over this than if you were actually drawing a pitch envelope, you tend to find all sorts of interesting surprises in there. I really like this effect and I use it a lot. Okay, so our next one is kind of related, and it's essentially pitch modulation, but with an LFO, which is vibrato. So I've got this sine wave coming out of operator. And you can hear the pitch is just absolutely rock solid. Well, what if we wanted to just push it around a little bit? Perfect. So how does that work? Well, we grab delay. Let's remove this other one. And we want to set the dry wet to 100%. We want to bring the feedback down to 0. Put it onto the time mode. Make sure it's on repitch. Probably bring the time down a little bit, somewhere around here. And increase the rate to like a kind of easy vibrato rate. So 3 to 6 hertz usually works fine. And then just bring the time up a bit. That's a bit much. There we go. I'll move the EQ afterwards so you can see it in the EQ as well. We're getting just a little pitch variation. Now, the more that you bring in this percentage, the bigger the vibrato. And the faster the rate, the faster the rate. So it's usually around 6 hertz. That's what I would use. Now, the cool thing about using vibrato as an external effect is you can apply vibrato to anything. So say I've got this vocal, I'll turn this off.
Lights up the sky.
What if I want a little vibrato on the sky at the end there? You can see I've already drawn some automation in. I'll turn on this delay.
Lights up the sky.
And you can hear that I've managed to make sky wiggle a little bit.
Lights up the sky.
Now, it's not perfect. You can tell there's some weird artifacting on there, but right in a mix, you may not necessarily notice what exactly is going on. Particularly if you've got an audio keyboard sample and you just want a little bit more variation to one note or something, you can get in there, you can draw in a little bit of vibrato. Okay, so our fourth trick is unison or chorusing. We can essentially create a unison type of effect if we use our vibrato settings and apply it to a mix of our original signal. Let's check that out here. So this is the signal that I'm using for this test. It's a sawtooth and it's completely dry. What if we add a delay using similar settings to our vibrato? You can hear we get kind of a unison effect. We can turn it up a bit. And you can hear it creates all sorts of phasing and crazy stuff going on, and it sounds kind of like it's in a bucket, but it's the start of a pretty okay chorus. Let's drag in a new delay and we'll rebuild it from scratch. We deleted the other one. So we're going to turn it off sync mode and bring the delay time right down. Leave the feedback up a little. Dry wet's kind of okay there. Let's leave it on repitch. And we want to increase the rate a little bit and just increase the time. So this is the modulation of the time parameter up here. That's not too bad. There we go, close enough. Now if we turn up the feedback, kind of pitch is a bit obvious there. There we go, we get kind of more copies, more duplicates. If we increase the rate and kind of create a bit more wiggle to the sound, and you know, all these things are going to do something to the sound. Nice. Let's bring the feedback down a little. Maybe bring the rate up. Bring the time down, feedback down. There we go. So we can bring the rate down on that. And we get kind of a classic phasing effect. So we can keep going and create multiple copies of that delay effect. So here I've created 3, and I've got the original dry chain here, and I've just blended that in. And I think I've dropped to the note a few octaves as well. So without this rack, and with it, you get a whole bunch of movement. So that's how you get an interesting unison-y, chorus-y vibe out of a delay. I do use this from time to time if I'm doing sound design and I want to apply a weird unison to something. It can be really handy to get something that's a little grittier and weirder than most unisons will let you do. Okay, so our last trick is creating a resonator out of delays. And so in order to demonstrate this, I've got Operator playing just a short percussive sound. That's it. It's just a ponk. Okay, and I've got this delay. And if I turn it on, you can see that the feedback is all the way up, the dry wet's all the way up, and that we're not using synced delays. We've just got a really short interval here of 7 milliseconds. Let's pop open this EQ. You can see that the harmonics will move around as I move this wheel around. So you can see there I've tuned the resonance of the delays to the input signal from Operator. So there's not so much inharmonic content going on there. So we've essentially created a resonator. So we're not hearing any of the original signal, which is this. We're hearing just the delayed signals, which create their own resonance at that pitch. Now that's really interesting because we can use any kind of input signal to trigger that and get a resonance at that specific frequency. One example that I like to use it on is drums. Here it is without moving the delay time. I'm sure you've heard that effect before. That's how you get it. Just really short decay times on really high feedback sound. And it can sound fantastic if you shift the delay time as it's playing. So in that example, the delay time is getting longer, which is dragging the pitch of the resonance down. It's a really classic effect, and I'm sure you've heard it before. Now, one thing to note with Ableton's delay is that the feedback doesn't go for that long. As an example, I can show you how to build a similar thing in filter delay, which has a longer feedback control. So I've dragged in filter delay. We're going to turn off the left and the right. We're going to turn off the filter on the center channel. And we're going to switch off sync mode to just time. And we're going to put it to 2.8 millisecond, which is about the pitch of our F. And we can turn the dry down. And as we turn up the feedback, we get a much longer signal than we did out of delay, which only goes to 95%. In fact, we can go to 100 on filter delay, but that's just going to sustain forever. Let's do 99. That gets you a much longer resonant note. If we drop that on the drums, we'll delete the original delay, and we can modulate the decay time as well. And we get a much more pronounced effect because we've got more feedback in this whole system. So in this example, I'm reducing the delay time while this drum loop plays. We get a much more pronounced effect because the feedback's just a few percentage points higher. So yeah, it's a pretty intense effect, but you can use it for all sorts of purposes, creating weird little resonances that fly off drum hits, or notes in a lead that carry extra decay time because they've got this additional resonance. So it's a really fun effect, and I'm sure you've heard it before. That's how you get it. So thanks for watching 5 Tricks with Delay. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.